What's going on, you beautiful human? You're listening to the Spiritual Show podcast from thespiritualroom.co. This podcast is a space where we blend ancient wisdom with new age teachings around spirituality, awakening, quantum physics, astrology, and more. Join us for weekly episodes where we dive deep into this truth and expand our consciousness as a collective. Hey, what's going on, you beautiful light being? It's Danielle Grant, and I'll be your guide on today's spiritual show. Today on our show, we will be discussing the physical pain that we experience, not only in life, but also as we awaken to our spiritual self, the energetic aspect of ourselves, and how our physical shows up in that, and how the physical pains that we experience are signals to our human body, but they can only be that if we choose to see them as that. I also shared a vulnerable truth of mine that truthfully did challenge me to get out without crying, but I did it and it was really beautiful. And I want to share it with you because it was a really powerful full circle moment for me. And I'm really proud of myself. So I'm excited to be able to share that today on the episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll into today's show. This podcast is brought to you by The Spiritual Room. The Spiritual Room is a high vibe container helping you awaken, deepen, and expand your knowledge of the spiritual self. The Spiritual Room is your space to feel supported as you awaken to your highest self as we navigate the energies towards the new earth, an earth of higher consciousness. Every month, the Spiritual Room hosts free and paid offerings to support your spiritual awakening and ascension journey. Head to www.thespiritualroom.co to check out what they have going on this month. Reminding you that the spiritualroom.co has a new offer out today, and it is guided by yours truly. So reminding you that Reclaim Your Higher Self registration is open, and you can attend the live recording of the workshop this Saturday, February 12th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or you can register whenever and you can access the recording and the 30-day mindfulness experience on the app. Click the link down below in the show notes to learn more about this offering and if it is for you. I will also add just this last thing. You are desiring change, and you are most likely living in a vibration of others needing to do the work, or that book or that class or the teacher being the magic bullet. And that space is actually keeping you stuck. And when you shift from understanding it is you that is the magic bullet, and it is important that you show up for you, things start to shift. The Reclaim Your Higher Self is teaching you how to act from the highest aspect of you, and not from a space of needing others to fix you, support you, or heal you. So click that link down below to learn more and go ahead and register for Reclaim Your Higher Self. One of the things that society has come to believe to be true is this idea of spiritual awakening, of spirituality, of the spiritual journey being kind of this idea of light or rainbows or positive, or just like nothing is wrong when you're this enlightened being or you're this spiritual being. And honestly, that is like the farthest thing from the truth. And on today's episode, I want to just remind you, but more so, I want to remind your human self and your subconscious mind by sharing this, that anything to do in the spiritual side is oftentimes intense. And I say intense loosely because there's so many different aspects that we experience the spiritual self that it's not the same for everybody. But the one thing that is true to every single one of us is the fact that we are energetic beings first and foremost. And when anything changes in our life, even if you're not aware to the spiritual understanding, when things change, it's actually a shift in energy. And so for things to shift vibrationally, energetically, frequency-wise, we have to have some sort of experience. And that's where it's not true in this idea that people that are in the spiritual community or that enlightened are positive and happy and like their lives are amazing. Those people actually experience more pain and more discomfort than someone who's asleep. And the reason for that is because they're shifting energies quicker. They're transforming things in their life. They're detaching from things in their life that don't serve them. And when that happens, energy shifts. And so we experience that on the front, and everyone experiences it differently. But sitting in a place that enlightened beings or spirituality is just like this elusive place that's amazing is actually stopping you from receiving more of your spiritual self. Because your spiritual self can only come in when you allow it. And part of that allowing is understanding that there's a physical experience, a shift of energy that needs to happen. So once you come from this understanding that, oh, in order for me to grow and expand and become enlightened and to live in more of my spiritual truth, I have to shift things. You should almost be looking for the things in your life that are shifting. You should be looking for where the discomfort is in your body. You should be looking for where the pain is within your being. And oftentimes people, once you kind of look at this and become aware to it, people think like, oh, and I've said this to be true too, and partly because it's easier for your human to understand this, but there's an expanded understanding of what I'm about to say. Oh, I have energy that's clogged in my heart chakra. I have energy stuck in my heart chakra, and that's why I'm experiencing this physical pain within my chakra system of my heart chakra. It's actually not that they're stuck in your chakra. They're not stuck there. It's that they are coming up to transmute, to shift, to transform, and somewhere in that vibrational vicinity of your heart chakra area, you are not allowing that energy to flow. So we say it's stuck there, it's trapped there. It's actually not trapped and it's not stuck. And when you come from that place, you believe that it's trapped and it's stuck, and then you actually live in more of that place, which causes you more pain, which is not what you want. You actually want to awaken to the fact that you're doing that and have awareness to allow those energies to flow, but also understanding that those energies as they flow up are probably, depending on what kind of experience they hold, are probably still going to be felt. Meaning that if I sat here and said, oh, I have this energy in my heart chakra vicinity, right? And when you look at the chakra system and you look at the energy field and the aura that we hold, you have a better description of what that energetic body looks like and like what could be not flowing in there. But as you ascend beyond that and you flow, it's going to go to your throat chakra. It's going to go through your third eye. It's going to go up through your crown. Well, through that whole experience, you might feel your throat get really uncomfortable. You might feel what you perceive as a headache or a migraine. Those are all the energies actually shifting through you. So remembering that it's not actually as rainbow and sunshine and positive as people think. It's actually a lot the opposite. It's a lot of actually seeing physical pain in your body because you're finally shifting the energy. It's a lot of healing aspects of you that have been silent and uncovered or suppressed for so long. And these energies have to clear somehow. And so there is a very physical side of the spiritual journey. And a lot of people kind of sit in this place of like, I just need to, do more meditation or heal more or become at peace more or become enlightened. And then I won't have to sit in this place. That's not true. And I encourage you to look beyond that and be more accepting of the fact that you actually need the physical discord in order to ascend as a spiritual being, instead of sitting in this place that I just want everything to be perfect. I want it to be sunshine. I want to be this enlightened being. Okay, well, an enlightened being is someone who has awareness to know that the energy that they're feeling or the issue that they're having in their physical body actually has something to do with their energy and what they're holding to be true in that vibrational field. And they're seeking the attachment of where it is that's causing that in their life. That is what enlightenment means. Enlightenment means you have the awareness to look at that experience, to see it for what it is, to not attach to it, and to allow it to flow through you. So you can't sit in this place of like needing it to be perfect, or I want to be healed and I want no pain, because that's not realistic and that's very egocentric, very ego-driven, very human-driven. That is the farthest thing from enlightened. Right? I may have just expanded your mindset right there on what it means to be enlightened, because we think we have to be in temples and monasteries and be studying Buddhist wisdom. We don't. And in fact, when you research and look into anyone who studies the understanding of Buddhism, it is very much rooted in there that enlightenment is not this top level thing. Enlightenment is not this righteousness hierarchy thing. Enlightenment is the ability to have awareness to duality, ability to have awareness to what this experience is. And it's a constant evolution of awakening to that aspect of ourselves, which is why eventually we can seek this aspect of enlightenment. And on this podcast, actually, I'm going to start putting out some podcasts talking about that, in the sense of how you can actually ground yourself as the enlightened being, the perceived enlightened being like Buddha was today in your physical reality, and how you can attain more enlightenment as you pass over in your life, because that's something that we need to talk about, and that's not talked about enough, especially in the Western culture. But just so many people, myself included, Sit in this place before you really awaken to it that I don't want to be in pain. Why is this happening to me? I just want this to be over. What is going on? Those are the wrong questions. The questions to be asking are, where am I holding on to this? What is trapped? What am I not flowing? What is my chakra system indicating to me? What is my physical being indicating to me? And how can I start looking at this stuff? It's not you actually sitting in a place of discomfort or sitting in a place of positivity. It's you in the moment questioning where the flow is restricted. Where is the energy constricted? What am I holding on to? That is where the change happens. That's the change that you're looking for. So I empower you, the person listening to this, to remember that it's often going to be more chaotic and intense and painful. And I say that very loosely because that's just a physical interpretation of this experience. When you awaken or when you become more enlightened, because you're actually looking at the things. And this really happens when you first turn on to this awakening, kind of beyond maybe what you know to be true in religion or just what you know to be true in general. Because you really feel things a lot more, because your consciousness is more in tune, but you as the physical being isn't quite aware of why you're able to feel more or why maybe these things are coming up more. Where someone who is awakening to this or is awakened to it is more understanding that this is happening for a reason, and it's giving them a signal and an indicator that they are going the right way, or a signal and an indicator that they need to look at this aspect of themselves energetically that's misaligned. It's not, why is this happening? I don't want to be here. It's such a great signal and indicator of where you actually are. And I'll just close this out by sharing a personal experience. One of the reasons why I've been able to really ground myself in the spiritual understanding is when I found myself in the psychiatric ward at 14 years old, which was 20 years ago now. When I was in there, I was labeled prior to that as someone who was super anxious and super depressed. And I was seeing counselors and psychologists, and I was doing all the things that the 3D world says to do. And I had associated the depression I was feeling and the anxiety that I was feeling as something that was wrong with me, as something that was wrong with my physical body. And I was upset that it was happening. I was frustrated that this was a part of my reality and my truth. But ever since that day of me sitting in that psychiatric ward, looking out the hospital window by myself in an extremely cold, isolated place, of asking the simple question of how did I get here, and what did I believe to be true for me to believe that my life wasn't living? When I asked that question, the shift I had in my body energetically was the greatest release and pause of anxiety and depression I had ever felt in my life. And it was in that moment that I allowed myself the ability to explore what that space was. Wait a minute here. I just asked myself a question of, what did I believe to be true to get me to come here? And let me just remind you that this is not something I was awake to. This is something that I consciously thought of when I was in this space in the psychiatric ward. But just by asking that question, I felt the shift energetically. And it was the first time in so long that I could remember that I felt like I could breathe. And I'm saying this to you because anxiety and depression has been so labeled in our society as the most distorted place possible. And if we can explore more of that, you will heal more of yourself. And actually, you're not healing, you're awakening to the discord in your energy field. And without me having that experience, I probably most likely would have continued to live my life in an anxiety and depressed place. But in that split second, I felt the shift. I felt that release. I felt the moment that I could breathe for so many years that I couldn't, that I realized I needed to start seeking something else. I needed to not attach to anxiety and depression. And honestly, that's what got me going into understanding all of this is that one shift and that one feeling I had in that split second. And then I realized if I stop looking at my anxiety and depression like it's something that's wrong with me, and I'm like this dysfunctional physical being in this world, instead of looking at it like, what is this trying to tell me about me? And what is this trying to tell me about my beliefs and what I believe to be true and what I've attached to? When I started looking at it like that, I welcomed the pain. Did it make it easier when I was in it? No, because the physical body still has to experience it and absorb it. But when I truly looked at it, like I need these signals and I need these indicators, and they're helping me understand what I am attached to that I should not be attached to, I stopped sitting in a place of not wanting it. And honestly, that was at such a young age that years after that, I had so many other things physically go wrong with me. But I would still come back to this idea of like, but what is wrong in my life? What is the discord in my life? And then it got me on to understanding the chakra systems deeper and exactly the experiences and emotions that we hold on to in each energy center and how that was showing up physically in my life. And they were exact. They were the exact things I was experiencing in my root chakra physically, having bleeding stomach ulcers and having an autoimmune disease of psoriasis. The exact thing was holding on to hate and anger and family issues and 3D issues. And when I started looking at those things, I started healing myself, my physical body, which meant I was awakening to the things that weren't serving me. But without understanding that those things were actually happening for me so that I could ascend, it would be very difficult for me to do that. And I share that with you because you might be in that place. You might be seeking this elusive, beautiful, blissful, when's it going to happen? When's there going to be no more pain? Blah, 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 blah. It's not like that. And so sit in more of a place as these are signals and these are indicators that you need to look at a certain aspect of your life. And that's what the spiritual understanding in every capacity, not just Buddhism, and everything that you learn about consciousness is teaching you that very thing, is teaching you that these are all signals and indicators of where your vibrational field is and what needs to shift. And so I just want to close out this podcast today by really empowering you and encouraging you to become more curious to the pains that you're feeling, to become more curious to this perceived blockages in your chakras. Become curious to what it is that you're not allowing to flow. Become curious to what you're still attached to. Become curious as to why you don't want to sit in that pain. But more to that, become curious as to why you've associated that pain as being something bad. Because I can tell you that the anxiety that society has come to know, and that feeling of your chest being really tight and it's hard to breathe and your body just really tense, that is a direct reflection of our energy system and specifically in our chakra system. And that's why we have so much anxiety in our world, or the perceived feeling of it, or whatever we've attached to it, is because so many people are disconnected to their heart center. And so a lot of people are living in a perceived place of what we term anxiety because they're not looking at what's in their heart center. And that is the exact energy center and chakra system that allows that to facilitate itself. And then we dumped depression on top of it and then all these other things on top of it. But that is one of the reasons why people experience anxiety. And if we could remove the term of anxiety and more, where's the misalignment in my energy center, like, whoa, things in your life would change so much quicker. You'd start seeking the answers that you need and the truth that you need and the people that you need and everything that you need. Instead of this idea of I'm anxious and I'm depressed and I'm just going to own it and I'm going to take pharmaceuticals and I'm going to go see these people. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. If you are that person, cool, I've been that person. Keep being that person, but also be willing to just look another way. Be willing to become curious about something else. Be willing to understand more of the discomfort and the pain that your physical body is signaling to you. I am not by any means saying drop everything and something's wrong with you. I am just saying that what you have been told to be true is only one aspect. And the other aspect is the aspect that will actually allow you to transmute and transcend this perceived painful place that we are in. And it's not just in anxiety and depression. It's in every single ailment that we experience as a physical being is showing you a distortion in your energy field. Thanks for listening to The Spiritual Show with me today. I trust you enjoyed today's conversation, reminding you in the physical aspect of the spiritual journey and how our pains are windows into our souls and energetic bodies. As always, you can head to thespiritualroom.co to sign up for the weekly spiritual communication email. And don't forget to check out the links and resources we have in today's show notes, including the Reclaim Your Higher Self workshop registration. That's all for the episode, beautiful human. See you in the next one. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at thespiritualroom.co and on the blog at thespiritualroom.co/blog. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.